Support WrestleTalk!
Click the thumbs up.
In the words of the great Beyonce Knowles, Kelly Rowland and Destiny Child's very own, the other one, Michelle. I'm a survivor, I'm not gonna give up, I'm not gonna stop, I'm gonna work harder. It's going, but you know, we get what they're saying. Those words must be running through the heads of many WWE superstars as they head into Survivor Series season, and the locker rooms of Raw and SmackDown gear up to face off against each other in no-holds-barred competition. Except all the regular holds that are barred, because it's not that kind of match. It's not Extreme Rules. And as one of the big four events, it's not like WWE don't go all out on the show, putting on some actual best of both the worlds matches and loads of crazy moments to boot. Not as many crazy moments as Crown Jewel, because that show was basically like someone had been huffing on oil fumes when they booked that catastrophe. But anyway, I'm Fakidor Laurie Blake, and here are 10 shocking Survivor Series moments. Lovely sibilance there. What on me? Number 10, Triple H turns on everyone. The year is 2017. WWE is full of incredible new talent, and the Survivor Series teams are absolutely chock full of it. On Raw's team, Triple H, Kurt Angle, Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe, and Finn Balor. While on SmackDown they opt for Shane McMahon, John Cena, Randy Orton, allegedly, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Bobby Roode. So it makes perfect sense then that 3 of the last 4 men in that match would be Triple H, Kurt Angle, and Shane McMahon. Because you've got to put over that new talent. I'm always saying it. You've got to nurture it, watch it grow, and then one day they're going to be the faces of the company they did what? So it was 3-on-1 with Shane as the last man for Team SmackDown, but he is the best in the world though, so he was going to be fine. Well, not exactly, because sure, Trips did pedigree Kurt Angle for no particular reason, allowing Shane to pin him. Thanks, bro, said Shane in his head. But then Triple H pedigrees Shane to win the whole match for Team Raw, basically single-handedly, because he's the best. Naturally, the crowd were confused, Triple H was confused, Shane was confused, Braun Strowman confused was, I am confused, just reading it. Wrestling. Number 9, Austin is hit by a car. At the height of the Attitude Era in 1999, the super popular Steve Austin was essentially carrying WWE on his back. Unfortunately, he hadn't lifted from his legs and thrown his neck out in the process. This lingering neck injury that had actually been irking him since 1997 meant Austin would have to take almost a year out to recover properly. WWE obviously knew Austin was not going to be wrestling at Survivor Series in a triple threat match against The Rock and Triple H long before the event, but that did not stop them advertising him anyway, because bums on seats, people. Bums on seats means a different thing in America. So, during the pay-per-view, Austin was walking through the parking lot when he was smashed into by a car, leaving him incapacitated and unable to defend the title. And then the Big Show, who had already defeated Big Boss Man, Viscera, Albert and Mideon in an elimination match earlier in the night, took Austin's place in the main event and won his first WWE title for a total of a whole 2 months. Yay! When Austin finally returned, Rikishi was the one who claimed to have been the driver until WWE decided that was not over enough and had Triple H swoop in and claim the credit. That's just another crime to add to his list of crimes. Attempted murder, diddling a cadaver, spitting everywhere. Number 8, Michaels strikes gold. Shawn Michaels made his much anticipated return from a long layoff at SummerSlam in 2002, taking on Triple H in what was a classic match. Even after 4 years out, he hadn't missed a step, which is not like 2018 at all, where he missed every single step, fell down, couldn't get back up, and they didn't have one of those red cables, so he was stuck there. Despite the quality of his performance in 2002 though, it was supposed to be a one and done. However, Shawn was talked into making a permanent return, which kicked off in grand style with him entering the first ever Elimination Chamber match at Survivor Series 2002. It was yet again another stellar performance from HBK, and as the match wore on and he stayed in it, it seemed more and more likely that he was on course to do the unthinkable, win his first world title in over 4 years. And he managed to do just that, giving the old sweet chin music to Triple H and snagging himself the gold in an emotional and memorable Madison Square Garden moment. And it was a far cry from the hazing he'd endured 6 years earlier in the very same building. Number 7, Sid beats Shawn. Because yes, Shawn was at Madison Square Garden 6 years earlier for Survivor Series, where he was already champion and set to defend against monster heel Sid. This match could almost be seen to herald the beginning of a switch of sorts for the family-friendly company, as the fans in New York despised pretty boy babyface Michaels, probably had guessed what he'd look like bald later in life, and were very, very into Sid, letting both competitors and Vince McMahon know it throughout the match. Considering that this was old school WWE in which the baby faces always triumphed, it was shocking to see Sid walking out with the belt after hitting Michaels with a television camera and picking up the win. And that was the night that Michaels' boyhood dream died. Fortunately, as a boy, he was always going on about wanting to compete in Saudi Arabia, so he's lived that dream instead now. Number 6, The Undertaker returns. How many times can one man rise from the dead? More than is probably best for him, because at this stage the only holes The Undertaker should be digging are in an allotment. The dead man has returned in spectacular fashion many times over the years, but few were as memorable or as well executed as his return at Survivor Series in 2005. After losing to Randy and Bob Orton in a casket match at No Mercy, it had been almost 2 months since the last Taker sighting, and he didn't have Instagram then, so it was really tough to keep on top of what he was up to. The casket had also been set alight at the end of the match, seemingly burning The Undertaker alive, which I always thought was more of a Kane thing, kind of tacky. So at Survivor Series, Orton's super push was continuing, where he was the sole survivor in an epic Raw vs SmackDown main event. But after the bout, some druids brought a casket to the ring and a lightning bolt set it on fire, as you do. Undertaker emerged and demolished Orton's teammates as the terrified legend killer fled the scene. Pretty shocking. Number 5, The Shield debuts. Few stables have ever made such an impact in WWE as The Shield did in 2012. And the fact that WWE didn't nexus it all up makes this even more shocking. The main event of Survivor Series 2012 was a triple threat between John Cena, CM Punk, and Ryback, which, if you minus Ryback, is like a really big deal. At the time, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins were completely unknown in main roster WWE land, which kind of made this debut all the more impactful, because basically the crowd were watching 3 randos beat on Punk, Cena, and Ryback, especially Ryback, who got dog-bombed through a table. It was obviously a really hot debut and showed why the trio would remain a mega popular act in WWE going forwards. Number 4, Sting's debut. Sting was one of WCW and TNA's biggest ever stars, and in 2014, 13 years after he snubbed WWE to sign with TNA, he finally made his debut for Vince at Survivor Series. The main event of the show was Team Authority versus Team Cena, a match Paul from the back office's pencil pushers absolutely dominated. The finale came down to Dolph Ziggler versus Luke Harper, Kane, and Seth Rollins. Ziggler, in a weird fit of actually being allowed to be booked well, managed to pin both Harper and Kane, but the numbers game, as it does, eventually caught up to him as Triple H interfered, seemingly gifting the win to Rollins. But just as the pin was being counted, the lights cut out, and Sting saunters on down to the ring, death drops Triple H, and gives Ziggler the win. This was obviously a top-tier shock, but not as shocking as the rest of Sting's run in WWE. An absolute travesty. Number 3, The Rock turns heel. The conclusion of Vince Russo's magnum opus. The 1998 Deadly Game tournament at Survivor Series was the sort of swerve the much-panned writer became famous, really infamous for. The tournament to decide the new WWE champion ran through the entire show and featured all manner of twists and turns, like a game of snakes and ladders and equally as naff. In the storyline, it seemed like the entire result had been orchestrated by Mr. McMahon and his evil corporate allies, with their preferred choice, Mankind, given an easy ride to the finals, where he was due to face off against newly turned babyface The Rock, who was gaining momentum as one of WWE's most popular acts. So considering that McMahon was on the side of Mankind for once ever, it looked like Rock would have to overcome the odds to win his first WWE title. Instead, Vince pulled a kayfabe rerun of 1997's Montreal Screwjob, more on that in a mo, and gifted The Rock the gold, turning him heel in the process. And then Rock's corporate turn became one of the most entertaining runs in a career that was stacked with entertaining runs. So, bully for you, Russo. Number 2, Goldberg destroys Lesnar. 12 years after Goldberg's last match in WWE at WrestleMania 20, which coincidentally was also against Lesnar, and coincidentally sucked, the two would face off again at Survivor Series 2016, in what turned out to be one of the most exciting bits of WWE TV that entire year. The returning Goldberg absolutely mauled Lesnar, mangling him with a weapons rack full of spears and the jackhammer to put him away. It was such a shocking result as Lesnar had been basically unbeatable for years. He'd slayed The Undertaker at WrestleMania, he was protected, invincible, or so we all thought. So Goldberg's win sent shockwaves throughout the WWE and set the WCW legend up for a rewarding, albeit brief, return to the very top of the industry. Goldberg. Number 1. The Montreal Screwjob. Told you it was coming in a mo. You all know how this one goes. Sing along if you know the words. In 1997, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were engaged in a bitter backstage political rivalry, like peacocks in heat, vying for the attentions of WWE chief and pretty bird Vince McMahon. Vince eventually sided with the younger and more charismatic Michaels and decided to cast Hart aside by essentially going back on his new 20-year contract less than 1 year into it. Hart was then essentially strong-armed by McMahon into negotiating a deal with WWE's greatest rivals, WCW, which was due to commence at the beginning of December. One problem though, Bret was still the WWE champion, and he had no intention of giving it up to Michaels, especially in a match in his native Canada where he was essentially billed as, and outright viewed as, a hero. So Hart and McMahon went back and forth on the finish of Bret's battle with Michaels at Survivor Series, his last pay-per-view before the move, with no resolution in sight. So Vince naturally came up with one on his own. On the day, McMahon led Bret to believe the match would end in a non-finish. Instead, he'd actually ordered referee Earl Hebner to ring the bell while Hart was trapped in his own sharpshooter, seemingly giving Shawn the win via submission. Hart had been screwed. Jobbed. The result was basically years of bad blood between Hart and McMahon over this very real betrayal, and Vince getting knocked silly with an uppercut backstage. So those are some super sweet and shocking Survivor Series moments. Sibilance again. But if you need more WWE in your life, how about some PG era pushes that didn't go anywhere? Click the video on screen now to find out more, and give us a subscribe to stay up to date on all of the latest wrestling news. I've been Fakidor, and that was Lucha.